Hello.
Hi, Lannie. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, Russ? Hi, everybody.
I'm doing really well. Greetings from London.
So, yes, greetings from wine country, San Francisco and Silicon Valley.
Great to see you. Great to see you.
So we have a full house today online, and we're very excited to have everybody here. And I'm going to let Russ kick off because Global Tech Advocates is the parent organization, if you will, and is very dynamic and exciting. So Russ, I'll let you go, and then I'm just going to say a few things about Tech Bay Area Advocates, and then we will roll into a great, great program.
That's great, Lannie. Thank you. And listen, before I do my little spiel about Global Tech Advocates and Tech for Net Zero, a big thank you to you for organizing this event. It's been many weeks in the making, and it's great that we're doing this just a few days before the COP26 climate change conference kicks off. And also, if I can just do a shout out to Alex Finden, who's behind the scenes producing all of this. He works for an organization called mammals.com, that's mammals with a Z, and does a lot of wildlife conservation films. And you're going to see some of his work coming up very soon. So a big thank you to Alex. I'm absolutely delighted that we're having this event. Back in May, Global Tech Advocates kicked off our Tech for Net Zero campaign. And I've felt for the past few months, it's been really, really important for the tech sector to embrace this overall theme as the world descends on Glasgow, Scotland, for the COP26 climate change conference, which starts this Sunday on the 31st. Obviously our planet is in peril, and timing is of the essence. The urgency that sits around this is enormous. And I think many of us feel that the tech sector has a vital role to play in terms of enabling the change, supporting the climate change agenda, and coming up with some really important solutions to these massive problems that we face. And just to give everybody some perspective on what we've been doing, back in May, we launched our Global Tech Advocates Tech for Net Zero resource hub. So if you go onto the globaltechadvocates.org website, you'll be taken straight into that resource hub. Within it, it has a startup showcase that features many interesting startups and scale-ups that are doing great things in the climate tech, energy tech, sustainability space. So I encourage many of you to take a look at that. We also have done a survey, which helped us to create our investor showcase event at the end of June, which we did on Tech for Net Zero. That had more of a UK and European focus, and you can go online and see that event and what many investors talked about and what they're investing in as it relates to Tech for Net Zero. And then on top of that, in that Tech for Net Zero resource hub, you'll see a bit of a mention about Coldplay. I'm absolutely delighted to announce that Global Tech Advocates is an associated organization for the Coldplay Music of the Spheres World Tour, which is focused on sustainability. So more to come on that in the coming weeks, but really excited that we're a partner for Coldplay's sustainability tour. In September, during London Tech Week, which was incredibly well attended this year, and Tech London Advocates is a co-founding partner of London Tech Week, we had a global event. So people like Lannie and many of the leads who you're going to see on this event participated in a session where we started at midnight in Sydney, Australia, their time, and flowed all the way through to the West Coast with Lannie in California, where each GTA group, I think we had 19 of the groups represented, talked about what Tech for Net Zero means for their various ecosystems. So a really great way to kick off London Tech Week. And here we are today. Lannie and the folks from Tech Canada Advocates, Tech Bogotá Advocates, Tech Mexico Advocates are absolutely up for talking about this very important theme. And for me, this really sets the groundwork for COP26. I'm going to talk a little bit more about COP26 in my closing remarks to let you know what some of our groups are doing. But for that, hopefully, Lannie, that gives a bit of perspective of what we're doing, what we're focused on, and why this is so critically important. So maybe we can put the spotlight now back onto you. You can talk a little excited about what you're doing with Tech Bay Area Advocates. And again, my thanks again for organizing this event today.
Thank you, Russ. It's an absolute pleasure to do this. And I just want to ask you, how many hubs do we have now? How many sibling organizations? Because it is such a great number.
We have 22 networks either fully up and running or in soft launch. And we have 2 more groups. Well, we have our Tech India Advocates group, which is in soft launch, formally launching at the end of November. And we have Tech Korea Advocates and Tech Southwest of England Advocates, which is built around the Bristol-Bath tech corridor, both going into soft launch by the end of the year. So we'll end the year with perhaps up to 24 global networks and more in the pipeline for 2022. So watch this space.
So if there's any doubt that this is a dynamic grassroots organization, you should not have any now, because that is exactly what it is. And now we are moving from awareness to action in terms of getting to net zero. And we also have a little bit of a birthday or anniversary here, which is Tech Bay Area Advocates has hit 5 years. Isn't that amazing? So
fabulous. I remember the launch event in Oakland. At the Kapler Center.
And many people who were at the launch event are still with us. Many job changes, startups that have become scale-ups. And what has happened in that time, besides many events and a lot of fun, is that thousands of advocates all around us. We now have all these other networks around the world. This is very exciting stuff. And for our advocates, just like in the other organizations under Global Tech Advocates, we have advocates who have met their funders. They have met staff that they've hired out of the organization. They have met their business partners and interns, and that has been very exciting. And my favorite quick story about a partnership is for my co-lead, Ed Grenville, who is a very well-regarded attorney in the UK and in the Bay Area. And he met his future business partner at our launch. And he also met his blockchain working group partner, Noah Buxton, at the same launch. And then, of course, he is now co-lead, which we are very, very grateful and honored. Ed is also the board chair of the British American Business Council of San Francisco. And somehow, amidst all this, he runs a very thriving practice. So we're very excited, and that's what happens at our events. We have students who were in middle school and high school 5 years ago who are now studying at university in environmental science that have gone into tech. So we continue to be very excited about what we're doing here. So we've also hosted several delegations, entrepreneurial and academic delegations from many countries with scholars, subject matter experts, founders, and funders, and we continue to do the same, and we can't wait to open up more. We already have a request to take this particular event that we are broadcasting today and to throw it up on a screen in a couple of places in San Francisco and North Bay and redo the event. So you're not done yet. That's what I want to say.
We're never done.
We're never done, and it keeps going. So that just reminds me of why we're here, why we're grassroots. We are private sector led. All that's very important. And one of the pieces that you see in the welcoming letters is that we are here for the greater good of the tech community. And when you think about us moving towards net zero, we are here for the good of the overall community, for our planet. We are here for our kids to make sure that we leave something that is going to make sense. So enough of us. We want you to see a video that was done by Mopani, another Alex Coburn. And yes, they do work together on things, who really captured the essence of what we're trying to do today. And then we will go into 3 very brief panels and get you all done, ready to go to lunch at 1 o'clock Western time. So Russ, why don't you go ahead and introduce the video?
Well, this is a fabulous video, Lannie, that you've worked on with some of your colleagues. I think it's really special. It does feature a couple of the speakers that you're about to see and hear in this session. So sit back, watch this, and I think it's going to really make you think about the challenge and the problem that lies ahead. So shall we roll the video?
Now to a dire warning about climate change
is now rapid, widespread, and intensifying.
It is unequivocal that human activities are responsible for climate change.
According to a new report, experts say that we have until 2030 to avoid catastrophe.
Many human-caused effects are now irreversible.
The team says that a prolonged heat wave in the Siberian Arctic this year is
The signs are all there. The climate is getting more
And
hostile.
bring widespread devastation and unprecedented extreme weather.
The Amazon rainforest still ablaze with fire.
Ice in the Arctic is melting at an alarming rate.
The fifth strongest hurricane to hit the U.S. mainland in recorded history.
The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service today proposed moving 23 animals and plants off the endangered species list because they're now extinct.
The horn is worth more than the animal.
About 1 million species of animals and plants around the world are now at risk of extinction.
I would almost go beyond climate, right? I think the source of the problem obviously is population, right? We're at 7-8 billion people now, moving towards 10. I think what we see with climate change is one of the many results of that growth.
Fire warnings have been posted in several western states where a historic drought is threatening a catastrophic fire season.
The world's climate scientists have issued their starkest warning yet about the speed and impact of human-caused global warming.
The industrial emissions and the VOC's emissions are the two key things that governments should regulate and should put in place strong measures to look for a real reduction, because no matter if you put 1,000 biourbans in Mexico City, if you do not regulate the quantity of industries that are surrounding the city and that are throwing to the air tons per hour, so having biourbans in the city, if you do not tackle the industrial emissions and the VOC's emission, because those are the key things that we should encourage governments, institutions, private companies, industrial associations to make a change and to make a real commitment.
An additional notion of technology use that is maybe not yet broadly understood. And I think that when you think about what changes behavior of society right now more than anything else, it's the engagement with technology, right? Just think about elections and social media and public discourse on any major topic. It is entirely driven by engagement through technologies these days.
We use nature, we use microorganisms, we use microalgae, cyanobacteria, for example. These organisms are key in the planet to help capture pollutants, for example. Nearly more than 50% of the oxygen that we breathe doesn't come from forest, from the Amazon, comes from the oceans and from the microalgae that are in the ocean. We use the power of the microalgae in this case to capture pollutants, adding cutting-edge technology to enhance or increase their natural capacity of capturing pollutants and transforming them through the photosynthesis process into clean oxygen.
The way we think about this at Enervee is like we like to think about the problem is caused by dramatically increased population. And I like to think that the way to address it is to activate the many to tackle the problem.
Hi, everybody. That was totally amazing. So I am so excited And thank you to Alex Coburn of Mopani and Coburn Productions for that video. Thank you, Matthias and Carlos and Gustavo in the next panel for taking time to be in there. And it is in my brain, Matthias. We must activate the many to tackle the problem. So here we are, speaking to the many virtually, and we will wrap this whole thing up and have it out to the universe. So I'm very excited. So it is my absolute pleasure to introduce the two gentlemen in the screen with me. Konrad Augustin is a seasoned international executive, thought leader, and game changer who is very passionate about innovation, entrepreneurship, and digital transformation. He is a partner at VenturesThe Ventures. So he has got his eye on the ball, and he is totally on it. Konrad is joined by Matthias, another genius, who is the founder and CEO of Enervee. Enervee has been working over a decade to help consumers purchase green. So don't buy your appliances until you understand what Enervee can do for you so that you make the right choice, because it is all of us millions buying things in terms of washers, dryers, whatever, that need to understand that we can make an impact too by doing the right thing. So I am going to turn this over now to Konrad and Matthias. I'll let you illuminate all of us today. Thank you again for being here.
Thank you, Lannie.
Thank you, Lannie. And thank you, Russ. Thanks for having us. And congratulations, by the way, for this awesome movement that you have started and that we just heard a little bit about. So I'm in awe about that. So thank you for having us. My name is Konrad Augustin. I'm a partner with VenturesThe Ventures, the CVC arm of E.ON, one of the largest energy companies in Europe, servicing around about 50 million customers. And with me here today to talk about tech to net zero is Matthias Kudwig, founder and CEO of Enervee. Great to have you here with me today, Matthias.
Thanks, Konrad. Great to be here, and congratulations as well to Russ and Lannie. Awesome accomplishment, fantastic.
Okay, so to start off, you told us a little bit already on the video. Tell us a little bit about Enervee, what the problem was or probably still is that you wanted to solve by founding Enervee.
No, absolutely happy to. I mean, it's just sort of quick background. I, had half of my career I spent in digital media and marketing, basically help large brands acquire customers online for all kinds of, products and services. Eventually ended up doing this in New York for one of the large global advertising groups for brands like American Express and Cisco and IBM. And what you learn by doing this is that it's quite amazing how relatively easy it is to get consumers to purchase things or sign up for services that they maybe don't necessarily need if you present it in the right way and utilize sort of the large scale abilities of digital engagement that are available to us, right? And then, our first daughter was born in New York, life changes, and I got to sort of the point where I was wondering if, these sort of skills and ability to engage folks in sort of certain types of behavior, if this couldn't be used to trigger behavior that is maybe a little bit more relevant than signing up for more credit cards, but potentially addressing global warming and climate change. So as mentioned in the video, the idea really was, population has been growing like crazy. That with us being so many, we consume natural resources at unprecedented rates. And couldn't we use that same sort of, resource of many people to reverse the trend and to address the problem? And it's like, to make that a little bit more transparent. Let me share a slide here real quick. I hope this is visible. This is just sort of every time I look at this, and I'm sure many of the viewers and listeners here have seen this before, this is world population growth over the last couple hundred years. And, a couple of interesting points about this. So it took us about 300 million years to get to the 1 billion, no, sorry, 300,000 years to get to the 1 billion number. And then since then, especially since the middle of the last century, population growth has really exploded. And just in the time since we started Enervee in 2009, and then really 2010 we got going, we added 1 billion people to the world population. So when I look at this, certainly it is part of the problem, as we saw in the video. But our thought was really, if we can just reach a small percentage of this population and change their behavior and reduce the amount of natural resources, specifically energy consumption, electric and gas and resource consumption, then the compound impact on this would be massive and would be a huge win in battling climate change going forward.
Okay. Wow. Yeah, those are stunning numbers. So population growth undoubtedly is a driver for the problem. How can Enervee help to drive that effect to contribute to the solution as opposed to the problem?
Yeah, so as mentioned, right, the idea really is to get people to consume less. And you and I, we both grew up in Germany, and my parents were kids during the war and grew up in post-war. And we grew up in a society where any type of waste, right, of really anything, is socially unacceptable. And that is still how I grew up, right? And sort of this whole notion about switch off the lights when you leave the room, or keep your hot shower short to not waste energy, don't make your room too hot with heating. These types of behaviors are pretty much social norm in where we come from. But that is not necessarily universally true, right? I've been living now in the US for over a decade, almost 15 years now. And so have you. And certainly this whole concept of being, focused on conservation is not as present here as it is in other parts of the world. And so the idea of, getting people to change their behavior, to reduce resource consumption is not new, but it's really, really hard to apply at scale. One idea that is fairly new in this space is to automate this, right? The industry call it demand response, the idea that you get a signal over the internet to your smart thermostat, and that sort of reduces the temperature in your home, and therefore you save a lot of energy, which works, but it introduces sort of new challenges because not every household is really keen on the idea of having one of the internet tech companies control devices in their home automatically, and we run in sort of some resistance with that type of approach. So at Enervee, we really looked at a different angle, and that is really around what is called plug-load appliances in electronics. The idea that if the products that run in a home every day are as energy efficient as they can be, we basically all get continuous energy savings for free, right? So that the notion being, you really only need to make sure that if somebody buys a new appliance for their home, they purchase the most efficient product available to them. And then you get over the lifetime of that product, 5 to 12 years for a water heater or refrigerator, continuous energy savings. So the entire focus of Enervee was to figure out how can we make sure that when folks shop online and they are looking for sort of the next appliance to buy for their home, that they easily can choose the most efficient product that is available and affordable to them. And that is really the whole founding idea of Enervee, and that's what we've been doing for a decade with great success. And we are moving millions of purchase decisions annually by now. And we do this with a very sort of simple, we call it a behavioral proxy, which is the Enervee score. It's a dynamically updated 0 to 100 energy efficiency rating that we, aggregate and automate by importing retail product offers from, hundreds of retailers and millions of product offers, and then we match this with each product's energy consumption profile. So we can basically say, of the 500 washing machines that are available in the US today, what is the worst and best, meaning score 0 to a score 100 product. And what's amazing to see is that if you introduce that score in an online shopping experience, the majority of consumers end up buying products that are measurably more energy efficient than the average market. Up to 20% is the average lift in efficiency, because the consumer behavior basically is you find the product that fits the space that it needs to fit, you get the color that you like within the budget that you can afford, and of that subset of products that's available to you, then everybody likes to get the product with the big green number because it lowers your utility bill and you help save the planet. And what's not to like about that?
Okay. So instead of trying to change people's behavior every day by nagging or DR, you give them the option to do the right thing at the very moment when it matters most, when they make that purchase for the next 10, 15 years.
Yes,
So,
and then just one data point in there, Konrad. It's like just in the US here, there are between 200 and 300 million of these purchases every year. So the other thing there is we don't even have to convince a household to purchase something that they weren't planning to purchase anyway. All we have to do, if we have to engage folks that are in the market and need to buy this new refrigerator and saying, hey, use the score to pick the product with the greatest efficiency available to you. And on aggregate, we're saving power plant level energy but through that behavioral intervention.
Okay. So the solution seems remarkably simple, but having been along the journey since our investment in 2015, I know it's been anything but easy. Why is now the right time to scale the Enervee choice engines?
You are familiar with sort of the German saying is like, if you want to change behavior, you get to, burn your hand on the stove and then it's hot, right? And I think the analogy about, burning our hand quite literally applies to climate change, right? I think we are now at a time where, climate change can be felt by millions of people through wildfires, droughts, floods, storms. And that really changes two things. One, the general sort of consumer awareness of the topic. We hear more and more of the shoppers and users that engage with our platform to say, we want to know what we can do, and this is a really easy way to take action. And I think by extension, what we see now is that on the political and government side, there is more and more desire to deploy solutions to the market broadly that help reduce carbon emissions at large scale. And the amount of funding that is flowing into decarbonization right now, both from the private markets and from the public sector, is larger than it has ever been before. So it's really consumer desire to have solutions that allow you individually to take action, and resources and commitment in the commercial and public space that hasn't been there before.
Okay. So now we learned a little bit about the need, obviously fighting the climate change. We know about the reason, a growing population being also a growing problem. And you explained to us a little bit about how Enervee can help finding the right products when people are at that stage of making a purchase decision. What's that final step that's missing to make this truly actionable for millions of people every single day?
That's a great question, Konrad, and it's really when you think about us addressing a sort of market failure, right? The first one was to introduce transparency to the market. How can I easily find a most efficient product? The second step then was for us, how do we get this capability in front of millions of consumers? And we partnered with large utility companies here in the US. We are, through our utility partners, now available to 42 million households here in America. So 1 in 3 US households have access to our solution. The piece that was missing was affordability, right? If a major appliance breaks in your home and you need $1,000 or more to just buy the replacement, a large percentage of American households don't have the cash available in their home to simply do that. And so we were looking at introducing a sort of eco-financing approach where you take a subsidized, easy, accessible lending product where you do monthly small payments on this new appliance purchase that aligns with the energy bill savings that you get from upgrading your home to an efficient appliance. And that's what we have just launched here in California under eco-financing, where you can basically purchase a major efficient appliance for your home between $15 and $25, depending on the product categories, without any down payments or other great commitments. And we accomplish this by working with state governments like the California Treasury here to provide this to households at scale.
Okay, that's great. I'm just looking at the time here. I don't want to get to upset Lannie or any of the other panelists here. So I'm going to jump to my last question. Looking at the journey so far with Enervee, what was your experience so far with funding and investors? And feel free to be blunt. I mean, I'm open to feedback.
It's always easier to comment on these things in looking in the rearview mirror, right? I think when we raised our Series A in 2015 with you and Obvious Ventures in the lead, the entire focus was on how do you make money with a solution like this? And our answer was we are licensing this to utilities and they pay us a software license. And that's how we have grown the business. We are actually raising capital right now to really scale this platform further. And today, the conversation is almost the reverse of it. Everybody is concerned about if you only sell this to utility, is that a large enough market? Everybody now is interested in sort of large scale consumer market impact and decarbonization at greater scale. And I think that's really where funding can be unlocked today. If what you are working on can demonstrate large scale impact to the core problem of climate change.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Matthias, for taking the time. I know it's a busy time right now as you just launched eco-financing. All the best, fingers crossed. And with that, back to Lannie and Russ.
Thanks so much, Konrad.
Hi, thank you so much, gentlemen, for that. That was very, very helpful. And I think that for the people who are listening in, we will provide an email to all of you after, and I can tell you more about some of the things that you heard. And eco-financing, I'm sure, is on the mind of many. So good luck with everything, and thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lannie.
Okay, hi again, everybody. It is my pleasure to introduce our next panel. So we now have very interesting development, which is the founder and of BiomiTech and Biometritronics is Carlos Monroy Cianpieri. I'm half Italian too, so I think I got that right. And Gustavo Sanchez Reulet. So they are coming in from Spain in Buenos Aires right now. So thank you for joining us. Carlos comes from a family of inventors. So innovation is in his DNA and he travels often. And Gustavo is very passionate about climate and its impact on nature and business strategy. And I'm going to let you guys take it away from here because you have a very impressive presentation as well. Thank you for being here.
Okay, thank you, Lannie. I don't know, Alex, if you can show our screen, please. Thank you. Okay, let's go. Hello, everybody. Thank you for being here. Just to break the ice, behind me, you know, I have my net zero Lego ninjas backing me up. Okay, said that, again, my name is Gustavo Sanchez Reulet. I am communications lead at Tech Mexico Advocates and partner and business strategist at BiomiTech. With us today, we also have Carlos Monroy, who is group lead for Tech Mexico Advocates and CEO and Chief Innovation Officer at BiomiTech. Again, I would like to thank Russ and Lannie for organizing this meeting and of course, being backing the Tech for Net Zero initiative. Among other things, our goal for today is to make net zero something that inspires our community and to play a starring role in the roadmap of becoming carbon neutral by 2050, if not sooner. We all know the past 5 years period, 2017-2021, is among the warmest on record, with temperatures 1.006 to 1.26 degrees centigrade above pre-industrial levels. We all know about the impact it has on sea level, the intensity of many weather and climate extremes in the globe, affecting life conditions. And this problem will continue for centuries because of the inertia of the process. So it is a call for immediate action. With the specific goal of capture pollutants and improve air quality, we created Biomechatronics, a biomimetic and clean tech hardware company back in 2016. Since then, we have studied the ability of algae and other microorganisms to perform biofixation of carbon, nitrogen oxides, and particulate matter 2.5 and 10 through the photosynthesis process. I don't know if you are aware, but 70%, roughly 70% of the oxygen in the atmosphere is produced by marine plants. These plants produce oxygen as a byproduct of photosynthesis, a process which converts carbon dioxide and sunlight into sugars the organisms use for energy. As a result of the research, a variety of algae with high photosynthesis cycle has been developed at our lab. We work on testing and improving different species to be able to build tailor-made biological filters. So after several years of doing research and development, we created 3 business units, mixing the best of biology and engineering with the objective to tackle 3 specific problems: biourban for urban and indoors air quality, high-impact biofilters to capture pollutants from fixed sources of emission, and biocobs as a vapor recovery system for volatile organic compounds, commonly known as VOCs. We use biological material for the biofixation of pollutants. We differentiate our solutions from others in the market because we have, saturated biomass as the end product with a high range variety of revaluation possibilities, within the circular economy model. And those possibilities are, moving or converting those saturated biomass into biofuels, food, or pharmaceutical products, for example. All of the 3 business units are backed with protected intellectual property, and we are in a different technology level readiness. We will go in details next. We all know that the main pollutants affecting air quality in cities are particulate matter, carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, ozone, and sulfur. Since September this year, World Health Organization has issued a new global air quality guidelines with the aim to save millions of lives from air pollution. It will need support and commitment from governments, companies, and everybody to help meet these new targets. And at the same time, talking about indoors air quality, Harvard School of Public Health found that increased concentration levels in CO2 PM 2.5 were associated with slower response time, and participants of these tests completed fewer questions correctly in the allotted test time. So air quality indoors is affecting performance. Governments put in place several initiatives like preventing the use of cars some days of the week, or many other related to the environment, such as collecting rainwater, recycling, protecting green areas, and that's fine. That's good. But these kind of initiatives, of course, are replicated across the region, but they are not enough. Also providing air quality information is not enough. What we are trying to reinforce is the need of install carbon sinks, because the speed of air pollution in urban areas is much higher than the natural capacity of the planet to recover. So, said that, we will talk about now the biourban family and the smart carbon capture network. Biourban 1 is the smallest member of the family. It is set to be used indoors, particularly indoors, and it has the capacity to process 255 cubic meters per hour of airflow, and is able to eliminate up to 1.4 tons per year of CO2, given a 400 parts per million concentration of pollutants. It has cameras, remote control, and air quality sensors connected to our central monitoring system. The next member of the family is Biourban 2, that has been designed for high volume interior-exterior air filtering needs. And this unit has the capacity to process 3,300 cubic meters per hour, and is able to capture up to 15 tons per year of CO2, again, given a 400 ppm concentration. And Biourban 3, you see here like a design or render, because on the center part and on the right side it is the real one. I will tell more about the one in the center later, but Biourban 3 has been designed for high volume exterior or interior use, and this unit has the capacity to process 10,000 cubic meters per hour of airflow and eliminate or capture up to 50 tons per year of CO2, again, with 400 parts per million concentration. All the Biourban family, the three members, are able to capture carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, nitrogen oxides, and particulate matter 2.5 and 10. And using the Biourban technology, we have created the Smart Carbon Capture Network initiative. And for that initiative, we have preliminary approval from CC35. That's an NGO coordinating efforts to decarbonize cities. And this project is structured by Pegasus Capital in New York and backed financially from Korean Green Climate Fund, and institutionally has the support of United Nations. So phase one of the project is to install 200 biourbans in 14 capital cities in the Americas. And these cities, in particular, these cities are the ones that we are doing first, because they have signed non-objection letters with CC35 adhering their proposed initiatives. And the project will be using the first version of the advertising biourban, the one that you saw before, the one with an LED screen in front, and with the income model related to programmatic out-of-home advertising to fund decarbonization. And at the same time, the idea is to use the network not only, for advertising purposes. Of course, that would be the way to fund the decarbonization process, but at the same time to use the communication capabilities of the network to make aware people about their responsibility with the environment and make them aware about technologies that are available in the market for them to demand those technologies that are more efficient or more, they are doing or treating the environment in a better way. Okay, this is the advertising BioUrban that I was mentioning before. It has solar panels in the roof. The idea is to be net zero. The BioUrban has to be, in terms of consuming electricity, it has to be neutral. And of course, after that, it has its capacity of capturing pollutants. Okay, phase 2 would include the installation or would complete the installation of 360 BioUrbans in 35 capital cities in the Americas. And there is a projection of phase 3 to go to all capital cities in the United Nations parties. So in the market, there are other solutions like or similar or with the similar use as BioUrbans. We have here CT3, that's a German company using again similar, also using biological material, in this case moss, to clean air. Of course, green walls with some technology integration. Going back to air quality, we focus now on volatile organic compounds that are a broad range of organic chemicals containing carbon and hydrogen and are present in paints, coatings, solvents, adhesive removers, aerosol spray paint, and fossil fuels, among others. I don't know if you remember that strong smell when you fill your car's tank with gasoline. Okay, that smell are gasoline vapors, and those vapors are 25 times worse for the environment compared with CO2, and are precursors of the greenhouse effect. Besides VOCs, what they do to the environment, they are directly impacting human health, causing eyes and nose, throat irritation, breathing difficulties, and nausea, and can cause the central nervous system as well as other organs. Some of VOCs can cause cancer. Okay, some governments are creating rules and regulations to prevent the release of these vapors. As an example, CARB, the California Air Resources Board, issued a set of executive orders, and in Mexico, the Environment and Energy Security Agency has issued similar regulations, and those regulations in Mexico are applicable for the big cities and their surrounding areas. So in compliance with these regulations, we created BioCops, a biological vapor recovery and processing system designed to capture and remove 95% of VOCs in gas stations and other fuel storage facilities. The solution includes a vapor recovery system using special guns with coaxial hooves to extract gasoline and absorb vapors at the same time. The system is connected in vacuum, and vapors are processed in the bioprocessing unit using microalgae and cyanobacteries. We monitor pressure and system performance on site and in remote. This is a real or the first real installation, BioCops installation at a Pemex gas station in Mexico. In most cases where there's no obligation, gas stations release VOCs without processing directly to the atmosphere. Where the regulation exists, the predominant solution today is to recover and burn VOCs. This helps because prevent releasing raw VOCs, but in the end, when you burn VOC, they become CO2, so it has its impact to the environment as well. The same as in BioUrban, saturated microorganisms, in this case microalgae and cyanobacteries, become useful biomass for revaluation. We are not only impacting the sequestration of the pollutants, but at the same time we are creating something that is that has value. Okay, last stage, going back to air quality. Now talking about industrial emissions. The first graph on the left shows global emissions of carbon dioxide by major sector, and the graph on the right, we are entering into industries. You can see here in the industry graph on the right side the weight of steel and concrete, for example. Those are two heavy industries impacting the environment. And at the same time, we have a global demand for cement and steel and other key elements. We have here a chart that shows from 1960 and a forecast to 2050. So here we have a challenge because we have to reduce emissions, and at the same time, there's population growth and economic development demand over these kind of resources. Again, in response to these kind of problems, we created a high impact biofilter division. There is a known model in the market that is carbon capture, utilization, and storage. For this model, mainly the technology used is based on aminas and CO2 condensation. It consumes high quantity of energy, and it has additional carbon footprint related to the storage process. What we bring is a breakthrough innovation and a new model about carbon capture and revaluation. This is a disruptive technology that converts pollutants emissions into green energy or other derived from the revaluation of the biological waste. The technology we use is related to gas interchanger, CO2, CO, and NOx biofixation using a photobioreactor. And again, in the last part of the process, we perform biomass revaluation. For this technology, we built a lab-size high-impact biofilter, and we had it tested by a third party with a resulting capacity of capturing capacity of 80% of CO2. Doing an extrapolation of the lab unit, it results in the capacity of capturing 123 tons per year of CO2.
Sorry, Gustavo, our time is very close.
Yes, we are finishing.
Great.
Okay, thank you. Our target industries are power generation, cement, refineries, steel and sugar mill. In regards of power generation, Mexico is an example of, they are having an excess of fuel oil production, and the authorities want to use this kind of fuel, and it is high on sulfur, for example, and it affects badly the environment. So we are working on a proposal with one of the major generation plants. This is the actual view of the plant, and this is the projected view of the plant using our biohydrogen towers, biodigesters, and the idea would be here to reevaluate the emissions and use the resulting revaluation as a biofuel for generating electric energy. This is another render. On the right side, you have a typical cement plant, and from the green pipe to the left, it is our biofiltering solution. This is another project that we are handling in Europe of a cement factory. Other technology that is available in the market, this is similar, but it's more like tubular photobioreactors, other projects with electric generation. This is carbon capture, utilization and storage. I'm going to speed now. We have a lot of recognition in terms of awards, and Carlos himself as an inventor, and a lot of press coverage. And thank you. I'm sorry if I missed the time. I'm done.
Thank you, Gustavo.
Casey?
Yes, so thank you very much, Carlos and Gustavo, for this insightful presentation.
Thank you.
So my name is Casey Goundiam. I'm the lead of Tech Canada Advocates located in Toronto. Thank you, everyone, for joining us for this panel on Tech for Net Zero, focused on Tech Americas. Before we get started, super quick, if in case you have any questions, please direct them to the email in the chat, gta@weare7hills.com. And I'm going to speak very, very fast. So now I'd like to welcome and introduce today's speakers to dive into the tech for net zero in their respective markets. And our panelists are Gustavo, who we just saw, who is the communication lead at Tech Mexico. Jeronimo Silva, who is the lead at Tech Bogotá, and Lannie Medina, who is the lead at Tech Bay Area Advocates. Thank you, everyone, for being here, and I'm looking forward for you to share your perspective. So, very, very quick. So the first question, the government of Canada will provide up to $8 billion in support of projects that will enable Canada to reduce its domestic greenhouse gas emissions. So what are the commitments that the government have made towards tech for net zero, and how are you seeing those play out on the ground in the tech sector? And I will start with Lannie.
Hi again, everybody. So I'll make this very brief considering we're running out of time, but it's no problem. So basically, our current administration has course corrected the United States path to net zero. We're very grateful for this. However, I don't think this is a time to ease our efforts. We could easily see a shift again in administration in 2024. So in my mind and in many minds, we have 4 years to really, really double down on climate awareness, elevating legislation and projects that persuade the population to reduce emissions. But we are really in action mode.
Thank you, Lannie. Jeronimo, how is Colombia gearing up for this project?
Thanks, Casey. Well, Colombia is doing a great effort, but let me focus in the city of Bogotá in particular, because I think the audience hopefully gets this idea, and that is that large Latin American cities, such as Bogotá or Mexico or Buenos Aires or Lima, face all sorts of challenges. Some of them, of course, related to CO2 emissions and solid waste management, and you name it. So the good news there is that these cities, I think, represent an experimentation lab, so to speak, and governments are aware of that. In the case of the city of Bogotá, the local government has allocated a much more modest budget than that of Canada. We are talking about $10 million, but we are collaborating with different cities in South America in particular. There's Santiago, Quito, Lima, and Bogotá. And we have put together a platform, the government has, that invites entrepreneurs to present their solutions related to the circular economy and in particular to solid waste management. So that is just an example of how a local budget, a collaboration between cities, and a collaboration between entrepreneurs and innovators can create solutions to a massive problem that is pollution in these large cities that are the norm in Latin America. So one last thing, this is accompanied by the Inter-American Development Bank, the IDB, which goes to show again that there is collaboration throughout the region, and we're looking for entrepreneurs and innovators to put out there their solutions and finance those solutions. So that is how governments are approaching the situation right now, Casey.
That's super interesting, and I love the crowdfunding. It's crowdsourcing ideas. I mean, what's best than to go to the entrepreneurs for solution? I absolutely love it. Gustavo, over to you. So, what is Mexico doing?
there are some isolated efforts, but the international evaluation for Mexico's commitment qualifies as highly insufficient what Mexico is doing in terms of policies and actions for 2030, for example, rather than falling emissions and are not all consistent with the Paris Agreement. And in fact, if all countries were to follow Mexico's approach, warming would reach over 3 degrees and up to 4 degrees centigrade.
Thank you for those. So now, because we're really short on time, I'd love to see, we have a global network of different countries in the Tech Advocates network. So I'd love to hear what specifically you're going to be doing to support the Tech for Net Zero initiative. So I'll start again with Lannie. So go ahead with your I want to say your chapter, but it's more than that.
We're all chapters. We're all part of the same family. Thank you, Casey. So we are definitely working, as I said earlier, we're going, moving into action, increasing awareness through communications and continuing our events throughout 2022 and beyond on this topic. So you look at where we were, 5 years ago, it was all about entrepreneurs and startups and scale ups. And you can see where we've really shifted to taking care of business here with climate. We are also looking at approaching and campaigning tech companies to not only make their statements about how they feel about getting to net zero, but what are they actually doing? So this has been a bit tricky, but we have made some inroads in contacting tech companies to even establish a CCO, like a chief climate officer, or a TZO, a chief tech net zero officer, something like that, to really elevate the conversation and really show that they're doing something. Because when you hear Gustavo's statistic, which just is daunting, that if we do not stop these emissions with these factories, we could get to 3 degrees and 4 degrees. At that point, you're talking about massive changes and loss of life. So we're on it, and that's what we're planning on doing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. How about you, Jeronimo? What are you planning to do to support those initiatives in your market in Bogotá?
Right. So we have decided from Tech Bogotá Advocates that we want to frame this conversation around the idea of smart cities. Mostly because we think it's a very easy way for people, entrepreneurs, and innovators to understand that they are able to contribute to the solution. So climate change and net zero has a wide array of tech solutions, some very complex, some that need very deep pockets for the research, you name it. But I think collaboration and crowdsourcing ideas is key. So we are framing the discussion around smart cities so entrepreneurs can bring solutions related to solid waste or less carbon emissions through their startups. So that way we are able to frame the discussion and look for investors willing to put money into these solutions, which is part of the key. So we continuously bring investors, we bring startups, we frame the conversation around smart cities, and we try to invest in the most promising startups that at the same time create jobs and they offer a solution for achieving net zero. So that's how we are approaching the whole situation.
Thank you so much, Jeronimo. And how about you? Last word, Gustavo.
Okay, thank you. I think we can make a difference. We are organized and we have talented and compromised entrepreneurs in Mexico. And the idea would be to bring them on board and to invite them to participate in the Tech Net Zero ecosystem.
That's really great. So I'd like to thank you all for your thoughts. For me, I'm going to just end with over, the Global Tech Advocates and the Tech Advocates Network is over 20,000 business leaders, experts, and investors. It's probably one of the best networks to tackle the net zero initiatives. So join us. You have the information in the chat. And now I'm going to hand over to you, Lannie, for the next segment.
Okay. So, Russ, we're going to do some switching here. Looks like a game of Tetris. Okay, Russ, we're back on. Go for it. Oh no, can't hear you. Okay, so Russ is not audible to me.
Sorry about that. 18 months and I still am on mute. Anyway, I would say great session. Let's bring it home. Let's wrap this up. But wow, really sobering to hear this. Really encouraging to hear the ideas and solutions that are being offered, and great to see so many of our GTA groups across the Americas actively engaged.
All right, thank you everybody. And we have one last slide with information for you, and have a great week. Ciao and gracias.